Happy lunch hour, gang. All right, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to imagine this. You're sitting down at the dinner table. It's you, the spouse, maybe the kids, and all of a sudden you hear the living room window break. What do? Well, chances are you grab your personal hole puncher and you go run to check out what's going on. And of course, what do? Well, you see some guy clearing out the window and crawling through the window, right? And of course, the first thing you do is run up to him and hand him your gun, right? Because you want to make sure that the person who's a threat to your life has all the tools he needs, right? Ridiculous. Sure. But it's the exact thing that's going on right now in the United States. Surprise, surprise. This morning, in my mail, I got this from the post office and a little card on mailing it, how to send your mail-in ballot in. And if I go click on the link that was on the card, you can go listen to the post office, and I'll put the link below. So you can go listen to the post office tell you how wonderful it is and how great they're going to be able to do mail-in voting this year, right? Funny how this comes today. Did anybody notice what happened yesterday? Okay. The National Association of Letter Carriers, the union that represents the postal workers, announced their presidential endorsement. Just read this to you. The nation's 290,000 active and retired city letter carriers represented by the National Association of Letter Carriers are proud to announce our endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz to serve as the next president and vice president of the United States. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to my original hypothetical question. Are you willing to give your weapon to the person who is trying to hurt you? You seeing my point at this point? Okay. You're going to give your mail-in ballot to the postal carrier who his union is openly against you. Right? Now, by no means am I saying that every postman, postwoman, postal carrier, whatever politically correct term you want to call them, okay, is crooked, is a Kamala Harris supporter. However, I want you to take a look at this. This is after the 2020 election. You know, maybe you could look at some of the news stories like this one. Or maybe you look at this one. Or this one. Or maybe this one. How about this one? Maybe this one. And then there's this one. And I could go on and on and on and on with news stories. This is local news. Those are all New York, Boston, West Virginia, Kansas City, Pennsylvania, all stories all over the country about postal carriers throwing out ballots. Now think about this for a second. In most areas, you have similar people that live together. And I don't care where you are. If you're in the city, if you're in the country, if you're in the suburbs, it doesn't matter. People have a tendency to group themselves with people of similar interests on all sorts of different things. Okay. You may have a neighborhood that's very wealthy. You may have a neighborhood that's very blue collar. You know, you inevitably have a neighborhood that's probably very Republican or probably very Democrat. Sure, you're going to have bits and pieces, but rarely do you go down a street and go every other house with signs in the front, Biden, Harris, Trump, Biden, Harris, Trump, Biden, Harris, Trump. You don't see that. It's usually 10 signs for Trump and 1 sign for Biden-Harris. You always have that one outlier, or the other way around. Okay? It doesn't matter which way. Very liberal neighborhoods, liberal towns, very conservative towns or neighborhoods, whatever. And so if you have a postal carrier who's picking up the mail in that very conservative town, maybe he's on the news in a couple of months because all your ballots from your neighborhood all got thrown in the trash, just like all those examples I just shown you. Oh, but it can't happen, right? You know, that's few and far between. Let me give you this. Y'all know the scenario from 2 months back, maybe, when one of y'all won the generator from me. Now, granted, this was UPS, okay? And all of a sudden, that one never got scanned in, never got nothing, and UPS said, sorry, we have no record of ever picking it up, even though I had them on videotape taking the package, right? Did make a difference. They wouldn't pay a claim or anything like that, and we made it whole for the winner, and I bought her another generator. But that was UPS, right? So let me go through this. Maybe you guys know this, maybe you don't. Y'all know what we do around here for Christmas, okay? We do the Christmas giveaways and the trivia questions and stuff like that, right? And that's Mrs. P and my way of giving back to you guys as best we could. But I also send a Christmas card to all my moderators every year. Okay, there's usually a little Christmas gift in it. A couple of years ago, I sent a Christmas card to Robert Bates. You all know him from watching the live stream. Christmas card. Never delivered, never delivered, never delivered, never delivered. It showed up the following October. 10 months to get to his house. And that was registered or certified mail with insurance on it. It took 10 months to get to him. Last Christmas, I sent a Christmas card to Lorna. Okay. Lorna was a moderator at the point. It got returned to me in June. Okay. It took 6 months for the post office to send a letter to Texas, for some reason figure out that they couldn't deliver it to her address. Don't ask me, because I sent stuff to her years prior. And they returned it as address unavailable. Don't know what happened. Okay, but there we go. So now imagine this. You send your ballot in, and it takes 10 months to get there. The election's long since over. You send your ballot in, and 6 months later, it shows back up on your porch saying, unable to get there. You send your ballot in, and your postman decides, this one goes well in that dumpster. Don't need this. There's some states that put R or D on the ballot, on the outside of the envelope. So it's pretty obvious to see which way you are registered. If you're a registered Republican, registered Democrat, registered Independent, whatever, you know, gee, all the ones with R's on it, I'm just going to sit here for 5 minutes and throw those in the mail or in the garbage, right? This is what's potentially going on. And the post office, the day after they announce that they are endorsing Kamala Harris, sends something through the mail, because I got it not only at the house, but also in the post office box today, that they are endorsing Kamala Harris. And again, like I said, not all letter carriers, not all postal employees, of course, are going to toe the Union Party line. But are you willing to risk it? Do you know your postman? Do you know if they are on the up and up? Do you know if they're liberal or Democrat? Probably not. It's not like a conversation you usually have with your postman. I mean, unless, of course, your postman's Cliff Clavin and you meet him at the bar every day after work, maybe then you know. But other than that, I'm betting you don't. The point is this. 82% of Democrats believe in mail-in voting. 37% of Republicans believe in mail-in voting. That's a pretty wide disparity. Why? because the Democrats know the cheat is on their side. Most Republicans know the cheat is against them. Yeah. Most states, almost every one of them, save two. There's only 2 states that don't have early voting, okay? And then there's a couple of states that some counties don't have early voting. But 45 plus states, the entire state has some sort of early voting, whether it's a week ahead of time, 2 weeks ahead of time, a month ahead of time, it's all different. I'll put a link below to vote.org, and you can go look when your state starts early voting. Okay. If you are going to early vote, which I'm fine with, okay, go ahead and do your early vote. We might as well. I mean, don't let them use early voting against us, because too many times I hear people say, I went to vote and the line was 3 blocks long and I'm not going to stand in line. Okay? Or I have to go after work, and even though they say if you're in line by 8 o'clock or whatever it is, you get to vote, don't risk it. If your state allows early voting, do it. Chances are the place that you can early vote is somewhere on your normal route to somewhere you go, right? You go to the grocery store, you go to the post office. I mean, I don't know, you go to Walmart. Chances are the early voting place is on the way. Stop off one day. It'll take you 5 minutes, because in early voting, there's never really long lines like they are on election day. And if they don't want to make election day a national holiday, which I think they should, okay, we should vote on one day, paper ballots only, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's my belief, but those aren't the current rules. So I want to use the current rules to my advantage. If there's going to be early voting, go ahead and early vote. But do it in person. Take one chance out of the cheat that your ballot winds up in the river, in the dumpster, in the shredder, gets lost, because like I said, that happens. I don't mail that much stuff. And it's amazing how the maybe 5 things I send through the mail a year, the last 2 years I've had one of them returned. Okay, that's 20% of my mail didn't make it where it needed to go. Imagine 20% of the ballots that get sent in don't make it on time. Think about this. Go vote early, use the rules to your advantage, but do it in person. Now here's the next catch. In a lot of states, you can check online to make sure that your ballot was counted and counted correctly. And again, if you go to the vote.org thing that I'm going to show you, that I put the link in below, okay, you can look by your state, and you can look for the absentee ballot tracking tool, which is what most of them call it. You enter your name and you make sure it's correct. Because if your ballot doesn't get counted, then on election day, I need to go again. And when they say, oh, you've already voted, you can print this thing out and go, nope, here it is. There's the timestamp on the computer. I printed this morning. My ballot has not been counted. It also helps you watching that to make sure that your ballot, your identity wasn't stolen, and that some illegal, because we've seen this, there was just somebody this week who got arrested for having a passport and a driver's license in somebody else's name, okay? And that's not the only case, okay? She got convicted because she was trying to travel with a fraudulent passport. Isn't that amazing? You got to have a passport. We're so tight on security. You got to have your little star on your driver's license, or you have to have a passport to get on a plane. But this lady was able to get a fake passport and travel out of country on a fake passport. Okay, this is how secure your government is. Check into that and make sure that your vote that you put for whomever, Jill Stein, actually says you voted for Jill Stein and didn't automatically flip over to Kamala Harris. Because then you want to go in and say, look, this isn't me. I didn't vote. It's important to check on your own. Do not, this prepping 101, do not trust anybody. Do not count on anybody to do it right. That's been my life mantra, that if I want it done right, do it myself, okay? Because God knows nobody else can. Make sure you check in on this, because like I said at the beginning, you sure as hell don't want to hand the gun to the person who's trying to harm you. And that's the same as putting your ballot in the postman's hand, who all of a sudden they are a strident, diehard Kamala Harris supporter, and they go, oh, that house flies an American flag. I guarantee you that's a Trump voter. That one's just going to go in my trash right here. Even though it's a federal felony, you know damn well it happens. And if you don't believe me, go do the YouTube search for postmen stealing ballots or destroying ballots, and you can find all those videos I showed you and a whole bunch more. Pinball out.